Grip socks are great, and now they're even better with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Better fit, moisture wicking, amazing comfort, and all the extra grip you need. Choose from 10 different colors for just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
At the moment, Puma as a brand is being carried by two very good football boots in the Puma Ultra 1.3 that was technically just replaced by the Ultra 1.4, review coming soon, and the Future Z 1.2. You really can't go wrong with either of those options. But what if you want a leather football boot? Well, they used to make the Puma King Platinum, which was excellent, but they recently replaced it with the King Platinum 21, which is a football boot that nobody should buy. There's just nothing about them that makes them worth the $200 retail price. But what if I told you there was another option that Puma gives no marketing attention whatsoever inside this box? For as big as the Puma King is a part of the brand's history, they just seem to ignore it. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, the Puma King Top, the $140 option that is kind of like this 50-50 blend of classic Puma King with the kangaroo leather upper, fold over flap tongue, kind of old school styling in general, along with a traditional conical stud pattern, but modern elements like a silicone reinforced upper, as well as a generally lighter design and a more modern shaping to the football boot. Think of it as Puma's take on the Nike Premier Series, which is an interesting comparison considering that these retail for $140 and the Nike Premier retails for $110. This of course begs the question, are these even remotely worth it, or should you save 30 bucks and get a football boot that's just as good, if not better? That's exactly the question that I want to answer in this video, including how they fit and feel on feet. So stick around to learn more, and if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can get them below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. We're not even going to talk about the styling because I feel like when it comes to old school boots, you either love this or you hate this and think it should only be worn by referees. But as far as the construction is concerned, the upper is pretty much entirely made out of kangaroo leather. The only element that isn't leather is this fold over flap tongue, as well as this little area on the heel, but neither of those I would say are particularly important. The kangaroo leather itself feels really soft to the touch. I think it looks quite premium, but of course the modern twist is that it's not reinforced by any stitching. You can see there is a seam kind of hidden by the Puma form stripe, which is actually its own individual element, also made out of synthetic, a sneaky way of increasing the structural integrity of the football boot without taking away from, I would say, the traditional feel and look. So I really like the way that they've done that. But the kangaroo leather itself is reinforced by what they're saying is a silicone reinforcement. And you can see a faint outline of some of these reinforcement elements. It's a little bit more noticeable when the boots are on feet, and the boot is entirely lined in a very soft synthetic suede material. The issue that I have with it, however, is that despite how soft it feels to the touch, when you have the boots on feet, kind of similar to the Puma King Platinum, they're much bulkier and thicker and stiffer than I was expecting them to be. And if you look at the opening of the football boots where the tongue is, along the edge, you can see all the different layers and the amount of thickness that all those layers have. And it's not that the boots feel bad, but they just offer a much more stiff and bulky feel than I think you'd expect from something that's supposed to be a modern take on a leather football boot. Leather boots should feel like soft slippers the second that you put them on, and you don't get that sensation with these until a little bit of wear time. And even after the break-in process, it's still an upper that doesn't feel like pure leather. It feels like there's a lot of extra material, where I don't want to say the touch is poor, but if you're comparing it to something like the Nike Premier 3, while these are definitely more structured, the touch doesn't feel quite as premium. But they cost $30 more. Typical of a traditional design, the laces run directly down the middle, nice and deep as well, so plenty of adjustability. The tongue is entirely made out of leather until you get to the fold over flap tongue, which is a synthetic material that I quite like the shaping of, and I love the fact that it's pre-flapped. You'll also notice that there is some Velcro to hold it down, quite a long strip. However, the sticky side of the Velcro is on this part of the tongue across the top of your foot, and you can see where it's positioned right at the top lace hole. When you tie your laces, you end up covering up basically 3/4 of that Velcro, which means that it's not as easy for the tongue to stay down, or it ends up just kind of staying high up like this and just doesn't look very good. It's kind of a weird design quirk. I wish the tongue was a little bit longer and they put the Velcro piece maybe a little bit further down so there was a place for the laces, but it's kind of a weird design element that I guess isn't a deal breaker, but I'm not a big fan of the way they did that. However, this tongue does look really cool. Moving to the rear, you're gonna find an internal plastic heel counter along with a low cut design that does come a little bit higher up the back than I think you'd find with a lot of other modern football boots. Nonetheless, it feels quite comfortable and is lined in this really soft synthetic suede material that's both comfortable and does a good job of gripping your socks. Plenty of depth, so it doesn't have that shallow fit that some football boots tend to have. Heel lockdown is very good, and the insole is fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. Pretty straightforward though, it just has this soft mesh lining on the surface, and it's made from a single layer of this black foam. Which brings us to the base of these boots, where you're gonna find another very simple design. For anyone that might care, for Neymar's short stint in the Puma King Platinum, when he first joined the brand, the sole plate he had on his custom King Platinums, I believe, was this exact one with the same stud pattern. So if that means anything to you, this is what Neymar himself chose to wear over what I would argue is the much better sole plate and stud pattern on the retail version of the King Platinum. Nonetheless, this is a sole plate that has decent thickness to it, obviously entirely made out of plastic, but has a little bit of a stiffer feel than I think you might expect. Nonetheless, it does soften up as you wear them in and ends up feeling, again, pretty standard, not much to talk about there. And then the stud pattern itself, while all conical studs, you can see that they're fairly long and also fairly narrow in profile. So they actually provide more bite and more aggressive traction than you'd expect from something that looks as traditional as this does. And again, if you're comparing it to something like the Nike Premier Series on firm natural grass, this is definitely more aggressive, but again, not really a standout. Which brings us to the weight, where I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but again, they're not as light as the competition in the Nike Premier. In a size 9.5 US, you can see the Puma King top weighs in at 9.6 ounces, the equivalent of 272 grams, which by modern football boot standards is on the upper side of weight ranges, and compared to a Nike Premier, that is almost a full ounce heavier. Is that a noticeable amount of weight? I would say that it is. And in general, if you're looking at a football boot like this, I don't think you care too much about that anyways, but it is worth noting that they're not really that light considering it's supposed to be a modern take on a classic. On feet, as a singular football boot experience, if you just walked into a shop, know you wanted something a little bit more traditional with a leather upper, and this was the first pair that you put on your feet, I think you'd say, wow, those fit pretty well and they feel pretty comfortable, and that's because they do. I really like the shape that they've gone for. I think the heel liner is top notch, the adjustability with the central lacing system, the leather tongue with a little bit of additional padding feels really nice as well. I guess my critique would be that the upper feels stiffer than you'd expect it to, based on how soft the leather feels in hand. But like I was saying, if you were to also try on a Nike Premier 3 or even a Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Pro, of course a classic Adidas Copa Mundial, I think those are all football boots that you'd put on and say, wow, these feel a little bit better and a little bit more natural and a little bit softer and honestly just more ready to go out of the box than the King top. And then when it comes to making contact with the ball, again, I think all of those football boots offer a more pure touch on the ball, where these just have a little bit too much thickness to them. The leather doesn't feel like it's the standout necessarily, when I definitely think that should be the case with a football boot of this type. And then you factor in the price, and these are, again, I think a little bit more expensive than they should be in order to be competitive. As far as the fit is concerned, from a width perspective, they definitely have decent width to them, although definitely not high volume through the midfoot, so something to keep in mind, meaning that if you had really wide feet or really high arches, you might have a little bit of a problem with these, but in general, I think they will fit most people. Of course, being leather, they are going to stretch, although there is a fair bit of reinforcement, so they're not going to stretch as much as some straight up leather football boots would. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size. So in conclusion, I'm not gonna lie, I'm disappointed by the Puma King top, not just because it's a football boot that I really wanted to love, but also because Puma released these in limited quantities, the Puma King Top Dassler Legacy, which is kind of a take on the same football boot in that it's a classic Puma King with the exact same sole plate and stud pattern. However, the kangaroo leather upper is much more traditional Puma King in that it's reinforced by normal stitching with a standard nylon liner. Definitely more low tech, but they feel infinitely better on feet. The worst part, they're mostly sold out and retail for the exact same $140. This is better than this, even though this is supposed to be the modern take on this, which I guess just goes to show that technology doesn't always make a football boot better. While the upper of the regular Puma King top is more structurally sound because of the extra reinforcement, it's not as soft and the touch on the ball isn't nearly as good or as premium as what you're gonna get from a simple kangaroo leather upper. And for the $140 price tag, with the existence of the Nike Premier 3, even a Nike Premier 2 if you can find those on sale, that is a much better value for money and honestly a much better simple leather football boot experience. And if you really are after something more traditional, then a classic Copa Mundial at 150 bucks, just $10 more, would again be, in my opinion, a better buy over the King top. I really wish they felt as good as they look, but unfortunately they don't.